This is our presentation on microplastics in the ocean by Owen McGuire,
Alex Johnson.
Josh Amstutz.
Tanner Weiss.
I'm Barry Hassett.
You may be wondering, what is a microplastic? A microplastic is a very small piece of plastic created from the disposal and breakdown of many materials. According to Sherry Mason, first, plastics are made from fossil fuels, so producing them creates greenhouse gases that contribute to the climate crisis, and plastics don't biodegrade. This tells us that we need to watch our use of plastics, and we need to monitor them too. This leads us to how plastic not biodegrading results in animals being hurt. These problems are very serious and greatly impact many communities around the world. Our problem and solution. The one large central issue is that microplastics destroy ocean life. They destroy the habitats and the food chain. The habitats where the animal lives, so these being destroyed by microplastics, greatly affects the animals' lives. In the food chains, even when one animal being extinct changes an entire ecosystem, because of something called keystone species. Keystone species are very important animals that when one of them is removed, it can affect the whole ecosystem. We have three solutions to this issue. First is devices that take the microplastics out of the ocean. Second is wastewater treatment systems that clean the existing water. And finally, alternative solutions that use the environment to help clean them.
Now we answer the question of why the problem of microplastics in the ocean is relevant. The main reason as to why it is relevant is because of the widespread plastic pollution in the oceans. Plastic pollution is associated with the top threats to the ocean today, and it is estimated that 33 billion tons of plastic will be in the oceans by the year 2050, according to the World Economic Forum. Also, microplastics in the ocean are a huge threat to ocean life. Some of the toxic effects on fish and other aquatic life are that it can reduce food intake, delay growth, and inhibit development, according to the ILP science. The first solution to the problem of microplastics in the ocean is to use various removal technologies to mitigate these microplastics. There's lots of evidence that shows why this solution is both feasible and realistic. First, several physical, chemical, and biological processes such as absorption, sedimentation, ultrafiltration, and magnetic removal have been investigated and successful according to Beatrice Malcati, a structural engineer. Also, Fahime Sabor, a chemical engineering professor, has written about advanced separation techniques that have been successful, including membrane bioreactors, magnetic base recoveries, and many different types of degradation techniques. Another removal technology that has been tested and successful is a 3-layered chamber that can be incorporated into the bottom of cargo ships. This method, when used to the best of its ability, could remove up to 204 tons of microplastic per day globally.
The first limitation to this solution is that it is very expensive. Making the machines themselves is very expensive, and also putting them into use. For example, putting a 3-layer chamber into a cargo ship costs a lot of money. The second limitation is that most of this technology hasn't been tested on a large scale, so it's not certain that it will work in the ocean like it does in smaller bodies of water. The last limitation is that most of this technology is not mass-produced, so if we do put it in the ocean, it won't have much of an effect due to the large amount of water and small amount of technology. Next slide, please.
Our second solution is using wastewater and drinking water treatment plants. Water treatment plants take water from either the ground, surface water, or rainwater to make it drinkable and distribute it to the local communities either through storage tanks or directly. And on average, these tend to be slightly smaller than wastewater plants. Wastewater treatment plants, on the other hand, take sewage and other wastewater and clean them using a multi-step process. And this multi-step process tends to make them larger. One positive of these plants is that a byproduct of their cleaning of the water produces fertilizer. Next slide, please. Other positives, according to a paper from Science Direct by Kuwak, Ho, Daniel Tang, include that during a study, wastewater plants during primary treatment removed 16.5 to 98.4% of microplastics. And during secondary treatment, they removed 78.1% to 100% of microplastics. On the other hand, drinking water plants had an 82% to 88% efficiency in removing microplastics. But not every solution is all positive. Next slide, please. Sorry, go back. According to the EPA, some of the negatives of water treatment plants and wastewater treatment plants is that on average, a modern one can cost $4 to $54 million to build. And the reality is that some communities that are most affected by microplastics do not have the money or industry to build these. But on the other hand, communities that do have the money to build these might not have the surface area needed to make the plants. But the main negative is that these plants can only prevent microplastics from getting into the ocean. They cannot currently help with microplastics in the ocean.
Our third solution to combating the issue of microplastics in the ocean is using environmentally friendly alternatives instead. Next slide, please. Firstly, the fashion industry. The fashion industry is a big contributor to the things polluting our waters right now. And the fabrics in circulation have drastic defects to our environment. An article by EcoCo pointed out that for clothing, cotton, soap, bamboo, wool, linen, and hemp, and other substitutes being used rather than environmentally demeaning materials could decrease harmful waste to our waters by a significant percentage. In addition to the fabrics we wear, it is imperative we are conscious of the makeup of the other products we use. Most of the things we use in our everyday life, such as utensils, vehicles, tools, or other items, have plastic components to it. A possible substitute for these items could be rubber, but specifically only the natural kind. It comes straight from the earth and would circumvent the issue of taking centuries to degrade back into the soil. For example, if we were to use synthetic rubber, it would take centuries, almost like thousands of years to degrade because it doesn't come from the earth and therefore would not be recycling. And finally, paint. We encounter it every day, but very sparsely consider how it affects our planet. Our environments are damaged by the chemical output that is procured from the excess of paint in our societies. Substituting with natural paint, which is made with a limited number of processed ingredients and is biodegradable, could help solve this problem. Next slide, please. There is, however, a colossal roadblock that we must overcome. Our society has become so invested with the use of these environmentally unfriendly products that it would take many years and lots of effort to make change. The process is laborious. For example, look at the provided picture of a paint removal job. We would have to do this with a ton of walls to make significant change. However, if we all do our part and use environmentally friendly substitutes, like in that picture where we have metal straws or bamboo utensils, we can get it together. Next slide, please.
In conclusion, we found that the best solution is using material alternatives. This is because there's a large amount of sustainable materials like wool, silk, and hemp that can replace plastic-made clothes. These materials are also eco-friendly and are biodegradable, so if they do get in the ocean, they will degrade and won't harm any animals. Also, other solutions, especially water treatment systems, are very expensive. And also, both removal technologies and water treatment systems haven't been used on a large scale, so it isn't certain that they will work in the ocean. Next slide.
Terrific, thanks guys. I got a couple of questions and then we will be done. Okay, I'm just gonna go in the order you guys are, so from Owen all the way across to Barry. So Owen first. How did the group decide, Owen, to use Tanner's perspective, lens, conclusion, like whatever content from his individual IRR, overall in the presentation? What part of it did Tanner's comprise?
We used his overall for all of our solutions because he had the environmental lens and talked about everything from what happens to the animals to how the plastics get into the ocean, and we use that to use our solutions, such as our main solution, which was the alternative solutions to clean the water using environmental things, such as using eco-friendly paint and straws.
Terrific, thanks. Okay, then Tanner, just the opposite. Describe an argument from one of your peers' papers that didn't make it into the presentation, and how come? Like, why didn't that argument fit with what you ended up with?
Josh, he had the lens of ethical, so he made very good arguments about the morality of some other solutions, but in the end, his arguments about the morality didn't really fit into any of our solutions that we use in the actual presentation.
Okay, terrific. Then next is going to be Josh. So Josh, reflecting on all of the work that all these guys did, which one do you think had the greatest impact on your understanding of the problem? Like, whose research do you think well informed the fact that you guys identified microplastics as your problem?
It was mostly Tanner because he had environmental, and it's affecting the environment most, especially animals in the water and also us, because fish are one of our main sources of food. And it just kind of opened my eyes more about to the problem. And
Terrific. Let's see, Andrew, you'll be next. What's a way in which your team's resolution, like your final solution, makes you think differently about your individual research, like what you did your paper on?
So I had the scientific lens, and the resolution that we concluded was the best was using alternatives. And so, can you repeat the question real quickly?
Yeah, so how is it that that final resolution changed the way you thought about your own perspective?
Okay, so initially writing this paper, I didn't have any previous knowledge on this topic of microplastics in the ocean. And even after writing my paper, I really only looked at it through the scientific lens. And so knowing that there were other solutions that also included multiple lenses, like the alternatives, which included like environmental effects and also economical implications, it kind of opened my eyes to like other things we need to take into consideration regarding my paper.
Okay, terrific. And then finally, Barry. What's a way that your team's identification of the problem makes you think differently about your individual research?
Well, my research was based, I had the economical lens, so I got to look at the solutions, but I didn't really get to look at like maybe the moral side or the environmental side of them. So I can repeat it, like how it makes me.
Yeah, so how did the team's identification of the problem change the way you thought about your own individual research?
One more time, I'm sorry. Wait.
How did your team's identification of the problem, right? The problem that you guys all presented, how did that change the way you thought about your individual research?
Well, it kind of provided like, I'd say a little more kind of insight into my research and made me think deeper about the kind of economical side of it.
Okay.
Because, well, it talks about microplastics in the ocean, and it made me think that money actually had a bigger part to play in that question than I thought before.
Okay, terrific.